Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Showcast, a series of candid conversations from film festivals and film markets everywhere, brought to you by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. Today we continue our Showcast coverage of the 57th Karlovy International Film Festival in the Czech Republic and delve into one of the works presented in its main competition, the Hypnosis, which won the Hypnotic Prize and the European Cinema Label Award. Joining us on this episode are director Ernst De Greer and actors Asta and Herbert Nordrum. The Hypnosis tells the story of André and Vera, partners in business and life, as they strive to launch a women's reproductive health mobile app and captivate potential investors during a promising startup weekend program. However, the weekend is compromised when Vera's attempt at hypnotherapy to quit smoking takes an unexpected turn, leading her to shed all her social inhibitions. This sharp satire explores themes of conformity and the performative nature of relationships, and we kick off our podcast episode about it with a conversation with director Ernst De Greer. Fire up an audio teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Hello Ernst, welcome to Karlovy and welcome to the Showcast. It's lovely to meet you.
Hello. Really nice to be here. Really
Presenting the film, The Hypnosis.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure there was a "the" at the before.
Yeah.
And the world of hypnosis is sinister, profound, mysterious, fascinating, of course. But what draws you to it as one of the driving elements of the film?
I think it was, from the beginning, I was just intrigued by, I think it's kind of scary and it's kind of mysterious, the whole hypnosis. And it's kind of like it's a big film thing. I mean, you've seen it on film before. So I guess I wanted to do a different version of it and make it seem more like this could really happen, not like a film hypnosis, but like more about just people changing, I guess. Yeah. Like people acting differently. I mean, that's a part of life.
Right.
Yeah.
People changing. But in terms of something like, I was telling you before the interview, I felt this very closely because in my personal life, I've been through experiences like that. I think a lot of people have been through experiences like that. Does this come from a personal place?
Yeah, I definitely think the film comes from a personal place. I mean, I feel like I can imagine myself being both of the characters in the film. I mean, it's not like I experienced this film, but it comes from a very personal place, yes.
What is your opinion on social norms?
For me, what was interesting, and for me and the writer Mats, I think what was interesting was we don't really know what we think is the appropriate way to act when it comes to social norms. I mean, if everybody just starts breaking all the social norms, of course there's going to be problems. Of course there's a point to some kind of norms, but they can also be very damaging and it can be very limiting and it can be very hurtful to feel like you don't fit in with the norm. Like the characters in the film, they are people who in very many ways fit in with the norm, but you can still feel like you don't.
Of course, then there are extremes on the other side, right? You know, you can't deviate too much from the social norms because otherwise then people start thinking you're crazy or hypnotized.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think if you just deviate very little, people notice it very fast.
I also noticed this interesting parallel, which I will be talking about with the actors of the film that I will be meeting with shortly, between performing in everyday life and actual acting.
Yeah, I think that made it very interesting to work with the film and the actors, because I think actors can really understand of course, their job is to perform, but they also understand that like every day is a performance. And I think they deal with that a lot actually in their lives.
Do you deal with that a lot in your life?
Yes, I definitely think I deal with that every day. I mean, it's hard not to think about how you act in front of people. Just doing this job I do, doing this, for example.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you have to perform or you have to fill this role of who is a film director. I don't know.
And how do you feel about that? Do you feel comfortable doing that?
I think I'm pretty good at faking it till I make it.
Because I was thinking, when they're pitching their business idea, it's not that unlike when I've been to pitching sessions for films, right? So did you draw inspiration from that in a way? I mean, they're not that different of worlds.
No, yeah, definitely. We both me and my co-writer Mats, we went to those pitches. We definitely did some horrible performances on stage pitching different films. So. We definitely had a lot of personal experiences to draw from. Yeah.
I won't ask you to give us examples of those horrible pitches, although in a way it would be great to start a podcast series about horrible ideas.
Yeah, it definitely would. No, but those are films that didn't get made. So, and maybe that was for the best.
So, speaking of the hypnosis, then I want to talk about cinema at large because this is a podcast series that revolves around cinephilia, but we also like to think about movies. Do you think watching movies and the cinematic art is also sitting down to watch a movie is a hypnotic experience?
Yeah, it can be when it's at its best. I think being in a cinema is the best way to watch a film, and it has that hypnotic quality. I mean, hypnosis in real life, it's not. I mean, for example, I spoke to a hypnotist and he compared it to like driving a car can be very hypnotic. Yeah. Like you can get in this hypnotic stage where time almost disappears because you're like doing something that's very repetitious and your mind just drifts. And that's the same thing as being in hypnosis. And I think cinema can definitely have that quality. There's some very, the best kind of films. There's this kind of films that can be, for example, very long, but that doesn't feel very long. And then there's this 90-minute films that can feel very long. And there's this good films that are very long and very slow, but they can still have this hypnotic quality that makes you like almost not think about how long they are.
For example, who would be a filmmaker whose films tend to have a hypnotic impact on you?
Right now, I don't know why, but I thought of this film Gigi by Edward Yang. Yeah, it's a very good film. Yeah. I don't know, he has that hypnotic quality. I don't know what he does. He does like these everyday persons, but you just see that they're real people. I think just watching someone that feels like a real person can be very hypnotic because you get so excited and you want to know more about these people in the film, even though you know it's a fiction film.
Let's talk about the characters in your film. This gives me a good cue because we talked about social norms, but also there's things that pop up about gender. Yep. Of course, the first thing that we hear in the film is this monologue about a very female experience when it comes to health issues. And in fact, the whole business proposition that this couple has, they're a couple in real life, but also in business, I guess, with this idea, revolves around female health. Now, did you have certain specific points that you wanted to make when it came to that? The idea of gender at large, I think I should leave it at that.
We did have certain, it's not of course, there's a reason that's in there. But I think that's a big part of, that's a social norm. I mean, how you act according to the gender.
Gender is a social norm?
No, not just, but it's like how you act according to your gender roles is definitely, that's a social norm. I mean, they can be very different in different cultures, how we act. In Scandinavia, I guess there's certain norms, even though like we've tried to make them disappear. I guess we haven't tried to make them disappear, but we've thought a lot about it. I mean, people are very aware of their gender roles, and we know that there's like toxic behavior in certain things you do according to a gender role. But still, it's very difficult to not get like stuck in gender roles. For example, in a relationship.
For example, what would be like a toxic behavior that would come to mind?
There's so many things you could talk about, but I don't think those very harsh roles are good for you. I don't think people don't fit in them. And when people don't fit in the roles, that's not good. That doesn't make people feel good. Yeah. And when people don't feel good, they have bad behavior.
Yeah. Do you feel like Scandinavia is a bit of a colder region, country, I was going to say, wow, but region compared to other places in the world when it comes to not only that, but just in general? Because when I see those party sequences, for example, and socializing, they're incredibly cold. I mean, I felt uncomfortable watching them. But of course, I'm terrible at networking parties anyway. Aren't they awful networking parties?
Yeah, we are pretty stiff, I guess. We also wanted the film to be kind of stiff. And I think maybe we like it doesn't have to be that way always in Scandinavia, but I mean I'm like that myself, so maybe that's why I like making films like that. I'm very bad at networking. I'm very bad at those kind of parties. So
yeah, I was gonna say they're awful, right? I mean, if you could make them better, what would you how would you do that?
I don't know if they're awful. I mean, it's very difficult. I understand why they are, why we need them. People need to network. And it's also fun. I mean, I enjoy being at this festival, for example. This is like a big networking place. I don't know. Life is difficult.
Is it difficult? Let's get into that. We can get into the existential side of things. Come on, Scandinavia is famous, renowned for its reflection on existentialism. Yeah. Is life difficult?
I think it's difficult. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about.
Why did you get into movies? What kind of interested you about it? Because it's not necessarily, especially now, the safest career.
Oh, that's true. I don't know. I actually started studying like film theory, and I was just interested. I mean, I just enjoyed movies. I was just like, when I was like 18, I was just like an avid movie enjoyer. I liked Star Wars when I grew up. And then I started studying film, and when I studied film theory, I was like, there was so much thinking about movies. I realized I wanted to get practical, and I wanted to like try making movies, because I was kind of sure that, I mean, we thought so much about what the filmmakers were thinking, and I was like, I don't think they thought that much. I just think they made a movie. But now that I'm a filmmaker myself, I understand that there's a lot of thought actually behind them. So now I actually think it makes a lot of sense. I think I would enjoy studying film theory more now than I did then.
Did you find that transition easy? Because I have a master in film studies. I've studied film theory, but and also I studied filmmaking. Yeah. But the practical side, it's a tough one. Especially I was poor when I did film school, so I was already an outsider. But yeah, so how did you find that transition?
I studied in. I mean, we have free education, so you can study for free if you get into a good film school in Scandinavia. I think that's a very good. Yeah. I think that's a very good path, actually. That's what I did. But I mean, I only studied film theory for like a year, and then I switched. So I didn't do it that long. I think I started my first like practical film school when I was 19 or 20. Yeah. So it was a long time ago. So I've been working a long time.
Who are some of the film theorists that rock your world?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about film theory, actually. I don't know. I just remember like David Bordwell.
Historical kind of based fiction. I mean, theory.
Yeah.
So, because we could have gotten into the whole grand theoretical side of things, but I think also sometimes people overthink about cinema. Yeah. Don't you just want to sit down and watch the movie and just think how it reflects your own life, you know, and just forget about all the grand theories?
I mean, that's how I like watching films. Yeah. But I'm kind of happy that someone does the other part, because I think it warrants some study. I mean, it can be very interesting, of course, but it's not for everyone, I think. I think for me, I like just enjoying a movie and not try to overthink it.
I'm going to be speaking with the actors later, but what's your approach to directing actors? We talked about this parallel with Hypnosis. I don't know if you've ever seen Heart of Glass by not Wim Wenders, Werner Herzog, but he actually hypnotized the cast while they were working on it.
Yeah.
But this, you didn't hypnotize them, but I very generally speaking, what was your approach to creating a specific chemistry between the two of them, which is very tense?
I don't know. I think my way of doing it is just letting the actors do their job, not directing too much, actually. I think when you have two good actors and you leave them space, I mean, it's enough to just talk about the characters and the film. And of course, we did some rehearsals, and then we just try to leave space for a process and finding out how to do it.
And what is the atmosphere like on set? Is it warm, or is it as cold as those networking parties? I guess it's not.
No, I think we had a very warm set. We had a lot of laughs, actually. It was a very fun set. So we had a good time.
So that helps to create that atmosphere.
Yeah. I think it's very important that everyone feels like safe to do anything, safe to do like bad acting. Yeah. And then you can always, so they have to feel like they can try anything. And then we find out if it's good or not. And then they have to trust me that I'm going to make the choices that are good.
Exactly. Yeah. The director, they have to trust the director. That's very important. What are the stories that draw you?
I like stories about people that feel real and that are not like heroic, or that can be not very sympathetic. I think those are often interesting on film. I guess I like outsider stories. I like people who are like trying to fit in or trying to find their place.
You don't believe in heroes?
Well, I think there can be heroes, but I don't think there are. I mean, I like a lot of films about heroes as well, but I just like making films that are not about heroes. Yeah.
Do you believe in love?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
There is a charming message in this film, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
We don't want to spoil it.
No. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's up to the viewer to decide if it's charming. I hope it's charming.
Do you like to interact with viewers in this way? Like not tell them what to think?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. I don't like telling people what to think. I mean, I try. Of course, I think when you make a film, you have all these thoughts about what you want to get across, but then I feel like you kind of have to trust the process of making the film, and the film is not going to be exactly what you wanted it to be. I mean, I'm not that skilled a filmmaker. I think I like trusting in the process and letting the film have its own life.
Wow. Ernst, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks very much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Next up is my conversation with Asta August and Herbert Nordrum, playing the roles of Vera and André, the central couple in the Hypnosis. It's worth mentioning that Nordrum won the Best Actor award in Karlovy for his performance in the movie. Let's go. Herbert, Asta, lovely to meet you to talk about the hypnosis. Social norms are a bit of a challenge because you never really know exactly what to do. And this film kind of revolves around that a little bit, you know. So I'd just like to ask you, what do you guys think about social norms, and how do you feel in situations where, like, for example, networking events or like places where you're encouraged to meet people, but it's a little challenging and you don't know how to behave?
I don't know. I'm very bad at it. The more rules there are in a social setting, the worse it gets in my mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think this movie and like this experiment that Vera goes through, like for me at least, it really made me think about the weird rules. It like puts lights on rules that I have like just took for granted, but now I see like, okay, it's weird social rules.
Yeah, it's a little bit like acting in a way. Like, you know, there is that parallel between real life and acting, because in a way, I think Brando also said something very similar to this in an interview, that, you know, we just perform constantly. We're performing right now. I guess I'm playing the role of the interviewer and you guys are the interviewees. But
I feel like my character also in the film, he wants to be liked by absolutely everyone. So he uses a lot of energy to fit in the parts he needs to play. And I can feel that also as a person, you know?
And it's exhausting, isn't it?
And it was really liberating to play someone that just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But also super difficult because I was really confronted by my own self-judging thoughts. And like to try to free myself from those was really difficult.
Yeah. For example, what would have been a moment where you were like, I'm going too far here?
A lot of things, I think. We did a lot of variation of the scenes. So we always tried to take it as far as we could, and then we tried to go the completely other way. And so we had like a lot of variations. I think that was really fun way. Yeah. So nothing was wrong. I felt like that. Yeah.
Was this a different experience from other work that you've done in the past? Because it kind of felt like it could have been also kind of fun in a way we talked about those borders, those limits, those conventions that you could maybe go beyond in this film. So was it, in terms of this production, was it a little different from something, other things that you experienced up to this point in your careers?
Yeah, I mean, Ernst works, he's very like relaxed and focused at the same time. So you feel very safe, as you say. You feel very like open, and anything is allowed. Definitely, he works in a different way, very enjoyable way, you know? You feel very creative and very a part of making it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. It was really amazing experience.
You felt like, when you say you felt like you were part of making it, does that mean that it was a very collaborative set even?
Yeah, I would say so.
Totally, yeah. We did a lot of improvisation and but I don't think a lot of that came in the movie, but it's like it was a good way to get in the same thoughts in the same space. Yeah.
Because we talked about social norms, but then of course performance, gender actually comes into that very interestingly, because, you know, in a way that too is performance. Beyond that, I want to know more about you guys. And when is it that you felt that urge to become actors, get into acting? Because I always think that there's a moment or something in us that we discover throughout the course of our life that encourages us to do that.
I don't know. My parents loved watching films, so they always showed me a lot of films, and kind of, I think afterthought is that I always, my parents always watched the actors, so I kind of maybe wanted to be one of those people, to get watched by my parents,
right,
kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I always just loved movies, and then I found out that there was this theater school, and I applied, and suddenly I fell in love with theater at the theater school, and just a rolling ball, kind of, more than a one moment, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say totally the same for me. It's because I read a lot of interviews with the actors and the filmmakers, and there's always like this moment, I saw that movie or that performance that maybe, but I don't have that.
You don't have that?
No. It's just been a constant.
Is there a little bit of exhibitionism as well, or something like that? Because not everybody would be able to have a camera pointed at them or be on a stage looked at by people. That can be a very intense experience. Some people would not want to be in that type of situation.
For me, it's not so much about that. It's more the playing and the fun of it. And I think, I mean, if I would be on a stage and not be doing theater, I would die. It would be really, really not comfortable. So it's not so much the gaze, I think, not so much the people watching. It's more of the imagination and the going into another world. Yeah.
For me too. I think I'm addicted to that playfulness. And escape into something else, kind of.
Looking at this film, I thought that it was also, first of all, I could understand what was happening. I really connected with your character, Asta, like really, really well. Because, for example, in networking events, I have this tendency to say really inappropriate things when things get really stiff. Like I'd be speaking with somebody and I just say, I feel very tired because last night I had a terrible night. I was walking down the street and I just felt this sudden urge to kill somebody. And I just, and they're just looking at me and I'm like, is this guy for real or something? I swear I've done it many times. But it's also very intense. So when you talk about this being a fun set, but then there's that tension between, especially the two of you, because you exhibit two different personality traits. So how do you get that? Does that ever get real?
Not in the same way, but I feel always that I'm awkward in a way. Or I don't want to, I want to fit in, but I can't, That's like a constant feeling.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say between us, but I do feel like the character very much. Yeah.
Especially when you do scenes with like high emotions.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the emotion, just like the physical feeling of the emotion can stay with you. But other than that, I'm pretty convinced that it's fiction and it's like good to separate it. Yeah.
And so, for example, in those more serious moments, in those situations when something really awful ideologically happens, does it still remain a game or does it haunt you? Are there aspects of it that haunt you?
I would say if the struggle is creative and it's in the process, I love it. I love when it's difficult and it's hard and I think if it's too easy, it's something wrong as well. But it has to be creative and not because we don't have time or we don't, it's the production thing of it should be flawless. But the struggle, when it's creative, I love it.
Yeah, it's. I feel when you see the film, it's one person that's struggling through something, but in reality, you're like a team working, trying to find out the right way to do something. And especially in this film, with Ernst and everybody around and us two, kind of always exploring. So it's not. You're not alone in the struggle. It's like a game we play. To try to find the best way to struggle.
I mentioned earlier gender, and I feel like a very important part of that is that the movie is a very important part of that. The first thing we see in the movie is this monologue about a very female experience that deals a lot with the body. And I wondered what your thoughts were on gender in the way that ideas are evolving now, but also in a way that it remains very much a topic that's debated upon, and it seems like the two sides of those arguments remain on their sides firmly planted, and it's hard to have a well-balanced dialogue when it comes to that.
I mean, I can speak about it through this movie, as you talked about. Gender is absolutely a performance, and I think from Vera's perspective, that definitely she's a very polite and very female-based attributes, I think, which is not being too loud or not making too much of a trouble and being very polite. So I think that definitely has something to do with her behavior. Yeah, the gender that she's.
And then on the opposite end, the male has to be the guy in the room, you know? He's like, he has to be sitting in the highest chair in the room. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think this character likes to be the dominant person in the relationship. Doesn't mean that he doesn't love her, but he likes to have power dynamic is set, you know? And when she starts to explore other ways of thinking, he doesn't enjoy it. Yeah. He kind of looks at himself as a feminist, but maybe only because it's what you're supposed to be.
It's convenient to him in that moment in time.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, like it's very convenient to be, to think about the climate and to be a feminist and everything. And when you're faced with the actual, you know, dilemmas, when you don't have the power anymore, you kind of, or he kind of understands that, or he gets into a lot of trouble. Yeah.
Are there still tangible risks for daring to defy those standards?
I would say that, definitely. And of course, it's different in different parts of the world, but I would say, at least in Scandinavia, it still is, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's so, like, the gender roles is so deeply rooted in us, so it's hard to also just, like, know what it is and to point it out. But I think they're definitely there, yeah. And
from the male perspective?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely hard to kind of get out of your own way, you know? Your own you're trying to be masculine, and it doesn't work.
You want to have that BMW or whatever.
Yeah,
cars are cool.
Yeah.
Hypnosis. Let's talk about that. Have you guys had direct experience with being hypnotized?
I did try it actually
yes, you
before.
Tried it for the film.
Yeah, but I wasn't very receivable.
With this film.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but because I had to, but I thought this could maybe be a good research, but it wasn't very.
How did you approach it? Because I've always kind of wanted to try it. I have trouble sleeping. Yeah. So what was your experience?
You should try it. No, but this was more like a therapeutic way. But I can't say I really tried like deep hypnosis. It was more like talking about yourself, or like just like closing your eyes and looking inwards, maybe. Yeah.
And you felt like it didn't work for you?
No, not really. Maybe because I wasn't like receivable. Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't it unsettling, though, the whole idea of being hypnotized in a way? I mean, you're losing control and balance. You know, you're surrendering that part of consciousness.
I think it's like you have to be open to being hypnotized for it to work.
Yeah,
I've been hypnotized before, and it worked I was very
open.
I was very open, you know. So I think it's you're not really. As they also discuss in the film, you're not really changed. You're just open to being changed in a way. Nobody's changed you.
I understand that completely because, for example, I'm terrible at drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of people like weed. Me, it makes me paranoid because I'm just not. I don't trust it, I guess. And maybe it's my Catholic upbringing. No, guys, it's there's one film by Werner Herzog that's called Heart of Glass where the entire cast was hypnotized, and they're like robots, you know. Yeah. Really, really interesting. Really interesting.
In the film or for the film?
Their performance allegedly is they're hypnotized and they're like moving like it's a really strange movie.
They did an experiment, I think, in Gothenburg Film Festival where they hypnotized the audience. When they watched the film.
No.
Yeah.
This film?
No, not.
Maybe they should try that.
Yeah.
They should do that, but I think it wasn't very successful because everybody just fell asleep. So it's just like.
You don't want that. Guys, it's been a pleasure meeting you and chatting with you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that concludes our special episode of the Showcast about the Hypnosis, one of the highlights and award-winning films of the 57 Karlovy Vary International Film Festival in the Czech Republic. Stay tuned for more candid conversations from film festivals and film markets worldwide, and look forward to more coverage from Karlovy Vary coming at you real soon. In the meantime, from The Film Verdict, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.